put inside it. So I want to share with you some of this knowledge of the health defenses of our body, our circulation, angiogenesis, our DNA, be able to protect ourselves, our ability to regenerate from the inside out, our gut health, our microbiome, and of course, our immunity. This is one of the top priorities going forward that we're going to be aware of now in a way that we've never thought about before. How do we actually protect ourselves? Well, the immune system is incredibly complicated. If you even ask a doctor who's not an immunologist to explain the immune system to you, I think that they would stop and have to gather themselves to explain this complex ecosystem of cells. I want to just simplify it to share with you that your immune system, our immune system, is really an army of super soldiers that defend our body against viruses, bacteria, and even cancer cells growing inside us. And this army of super soldiers all have different weapons. They are equipped and trained to do different tasks. And some of the names that they carry, I've shown here: T cells, NK cells, dendritic cells, B cells, are less important for the everyday person to understand than to just recognize that the body knows how to defend itself, and how we feed our soldiers, how we supply the troops, can make a big difference in terms of the resources and energy they actually have to defend our bodies. So, although there are many more than 10, I want to share with you 10 things that you should eat that we've learned during the pandemic as it relates to immunity. And I'll share with you some examples of each one, but also tell you how I think it's so easy to incorporate these into everyday life. In other words, unlike the past where food and health and diet was about excluding foods from what we eat, cut this out, cut that out, deprivation, avoidance, shame, fear about foods, we are now beginning to realize we can lean into the foods. We can explore what Mother Nature has imbued foods with to our benefit, and find ways within our humanity, and to look at our cultures and look at our ability to innovate in terms of cooking and techniques to actually light up the plate in front of us, so that we can light up our immune system inside us. So let me just give you a couple of examples. Vitamin C, we know, is very important because going all the way back to the age of pirates on the high seas, we knew that if you were deficient of vitamin C, your body's skin and mucous membrane defenses, like in your gums, would break down. That was scurvy. We also know that vitamin C helps our immune cells kill microbes. It helps clear the cells that have actually been infected by a virus, that have been then the cells actually are killed by the immune system. We need to be able to sweep away, have a cleaning crew remove those infected cells, and also to produce antibodies. Vitamin C plays a role, as well as to control inflammation. And this is an area of potential confusion, because we hear, for example, with COVID, that there's a great inflammatory response, a cytokine storm, and we want to get rid of the inflammation. What I would like to share with you is that inflammation is the body's way of actually waging this war. There are inflammation super soldiers, or super soldiers that carry out inflammation. What we don't want them to do is to exceed their job description, to overplay their own role in the mission. So again, the body knows what to do. We just have to be able to enable it to actually get to that control. What are some foods with vitamin C? Well, we think of oranges, citrus, of course, but guava, which is a tropical fruit, a very delicious, subtle tropical fruit, not very sweet, is packed with vitamin C. And it can be juiced. It could be eaten raw. It could be used in cooking. So many ways to actually use guava. And if you don't have access to guava, another rich source of vitamin C is the red bell pepper, which is really packed with not only vitamin C, but other healthy bioactives as well. And again, as I show you these pictures, if your brain is starting to activate your food senses, then I've achieved my goal, because health is very much part of our senses, which is what our motivation is to actually choose foods. Mushrooms have been shown to activate in humans the secretion of a protective antibody called IgA. The IgA antibody is present in our saliva and in our mucous membranes, and it's present, and it's in part influenced by a natural chemical called beta-D-glucan, which is a kind of soluble fiber that's found in the cap of the mushroom, but it's also found in the stalk of the mushroom. And so many different types of mushrooms that I love to have. The question is, which types of mushrooms actually have the greatest amount of beta-glucan? They all have it, but it turns out that the golden chanterelle mushroom is one of the mushrooms we see in the marketplace that has the highest levels. And so again, unlike the past where there was generalization about one type of superfoods, we are now beginning to realize that among a particular type of food, some are first or higher among equals. And so the chanterelle mushroom is one of them. But mushrooms aren't always available year round. And so fortunately, dried mushrooms can also facilitate this because the fiber is also present in the dried mushroom, which then you can cook throughout the year and find different recipes to use them as well. Another food to talk about is broccoli sprouts. And I'm a big champion of these 3 to 4 day old broccoli sprouts. They're very tender. They are nutty flavored. They don't have the strong flavor of sulfurous flavor of a grown-up broccoli. And they have about 10 to 100 times more of the natural chemical called sulforaphane that helps to boost our immune system and quell inflammation. But a study that was done in North Carolina showed remarkably in young healthy volunteers who were getting a vaccine, a virus vaccine, this in case was to the influenza virus through the nose, that if they actually gave 2 cups per day of a shake made with broccoli sprouts, that those who had the vaccine and drank the shake, the broccoli sprout shake, had 22 times amplification of their natural killer T cells, or super soldiers against the virus. And those cells had more killing power. Their ammo was much more powerful. And when they actually swabbed the nose to look for the virus was much less common, almost undetectable in those who had the broccoli sprouts. This isn't food versus medicine. This is food and medicine. And one of the interesting things to think about as we look forward to a COVID-19 vaccine is what types of foods might help the vaccine actually work better. If you can't find broccoli sprouts, a regular broccoli will do the same for you. Remember, the stem has this natural sulforaphane compound at 2 times the level as the tops. So cook with the stem as the tops. And if you don't like the stems or the tops to eat them in a saute, you can also make them into a soup. So many different ways to make a single plant-based food versatile and appealing to our diet. Olive oil, we know as part of the Mediterranean diet, is generally healthy. It's a healthy fat, but we're now beginning to realize is one of the natural chemicals called hydroxytyrosol activates one of our immune super soldiers called the T cells. And the hydroxytyrosol is present in the olive oil, but it's also present in the watery part of the olive itself, the meat of the olive. And so therefore, you can cook with the olive. You don't only have olive oil. I mean, you really don't want to be in consuming tons of olive oil every day, but you can actually eat olives and cook them in foods together to amplify flavor, and a lot of different ways to actually cook with olives and olive oil. Oysters are a surprise as well. These are studies that have been done out of Asia because in Asia, oysters that are rarely eaten on the half shell, as in most Western countries. Oysters that are often opened up and steamed and cooked. And if the oysters are not perfect for serving, grade A oysters, oysters that are left behind, grade B, C, and D, and lower, are cooked down into oyster sauce. And researchers in China have actually shown that cooked down Pacific oysters actually have the proteins and polysaccharides that activate the immune system and enlarge our immune organs, the spleen and the thymus, and they double the super soldier power of the natural killer immune cells. In lab research where you're using the immune system to kill cancer, you can actually show a 48% reduction in tumor growth. So Oysters, some people like, some people don't like, but here's another really beautiful way of combining oysters in its sauce with a broccoli relative. In this case, it's Chinese broccoli sauteed with oyster sauce. And this is something that can be done, in a very delicious, swift way. Look at that beautiful green. Those colors really speak to what Mother Nature has imbued the food with. And anybody who's actually tasted oyster sauce knows that there's this incredible umami flavor. So this isn't just about science. This is really about our culture, our nature, our humanity, our taste buds, and how we think about the versatility of our foods. Who wouldn't want to eat this? The blackberries, blueberries, the colors themselves speak to us. They are visually, they activate our brains in ways that go far beyond our taste buds. And the dark coloring, the beautiful dark blue black coloring of berries, these berries actually are a natural dye called anthocyanins. And researchers have shown that anthocyanins activate, again, our immune super soldiers called natural killer cells. And in fact, some studies have been done to look at athletes who are training and in competition. And what we do know is that when we actually compete, our body, in addition to actually working our muscles, our immune systems are activated by exercise, and they peak during the exercise. And when we stop, when we finish a run or a marathon, the immune system that was elevated suddenly plummets back down to its basic level. But researchers have shown that if you eat a couple of handfuls of blueberries before you go on an exercise, a workout, so to speak, that the elevation of the workout of your immune system with the blueberries will propel the rise of those T cells, those immune super soldiers, for days after you stopped exercising. So again, it's not the food alone, it's how it responds and interacts with your body, including exercise, which we know is actually a very important component. Cranberries is another unique food with anthocyanins, and these have been studied to show that they can activate the delta gamma T cells. Again, the actual name of the immune cells are less important than to know that they activate your immune super soldiers. And how many of you have heard of this long standing aphorism that cranberry juice can help women decrease the risk of a bladder infection by changing the pH of their urine? Well, we know that that's probably not the case. The pH is probably less important than the fact that the natural dye in the cranberry, when it's absorbed in the stomach, prompts the immune system to produce these higher levels of these super soldiers called delta gamma T cells that actually are first responders in the lining of our tissues and organs, including the bladder, to fight back against invading bacteria or viruses. So again, another beautiful berry.